This is Kathy Deaton from Fan the Flame Ministry sharing with you nuggets of godly wisdom. This episode is titled, When Was the Last Time You Expected God to Do the Impossible? I would like to read Mark 2, 1 through 5 from the American Standard Version. And when he entered again into Capernaum after some days, it was noised that he was in the house, and many were gathered together, so that there was no longer room for them, no, not even about the door. And he spake the word unto them. And they come, bringing unto him a man sick of the palsy, born of 4. And when they could not come nigh unto him for the crowd, they uncovered the roof where he was. And when they had broken it up, they let down the bed whereon the sick of the palsy lay. And Jesus, seeing their faith, said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sins are forgiven. It seems that Jesus had come into Capernaum quietly, but someone saw him and started to spread the word about his arrival. The word noised in Greek means to hear, be reported, understand. The people loved Jesus because they saw that he was real. They saw he was doing something that was real. And truly, people always want to be around something or somebody that's real. So the word had spread quickly, and the people had come to the place where Jesus was staying. So many had come that there was no more room for anyone else to get inside. They desperately wanted to hear Jesus teach about this new way of life that could be theirs. The sick man in verse 3 had 4 friends who obviously cared about him a great deal. It took them longer to get to the house where Jesus was staying because they had to pick up their paralyzed friend and physically carry him there. I'm sure it took all 4 of them working together to get this accomplished. And the added fact that they somehow lifted him up to the roof to gain access to Jesus shows how desperate they were for their friend to be healed. The roofs in those days were definitely not as sturdy as ours today, but it still wouldn't have been easy to tear off the top of the roof and then slowly let down a grown but paralyzed man into the room. But the men brought their friend to Jesus because they had the faith that he could be healed. They obviously had no doubt that if they could just get him to Jesus, Jesus would supernaturally heal him. The Bible mentions nothing really about the sick man's faith. It only talks about the faith of the 4 men. We don't know if the sick man asked them to take him to Jesus or if it was their idea alone. But the Bible does say that when Jesus saw their faith, the 4 men's faith, he immediately healed their friend. They would not let anything get in the way of receiving healing for him, even removing the roof. Have you lost your sense of urgency to pray for miracles in the lives of those around you? Those who desperately need a touch from God? This quote from C.T. Studd sums up the whole meaning of these verses. Christ wants not nibblers of the possible, but grabbers of the impossible. When was the last time you truly expected God to do the impossible in your life? When was the last time you stepped out on faith to do something that you knew God told you to do, but you absolutely could not do it in your own power? When was the last time you stepped out on faith so far that if God didn't come through, the situation was hopeless? But under absolutely no circumstances should you put your own plans into action and expect God to bless them. You must get before God, ask Him what you need to do, then step out in faith to do it, even though you might not be able to see the end result. And another reminder, you won't be able to do this thing in your own power. But God has all the power you will need, and He can always see the road ahead. He wants you to trust Him to show you the next step. I'm definitely not saying this is an easy way to live, because we as humans usually desire to be in control of our own destiny, even though that is never really the case. But if you decide to be a grabber of the impossible, I can promise that life won't be boring or mundane. You will start to see a supernatural God at work in your life. Nothing on earth can compare to the rush of adrenaline you feel when you have allowed God to use you supernaturally to bring glory to Him. What an awesome way to live each day to the fullest. This is Kathy Deaton from Fan the Flame Ministry, sharing with you nuggets of godly wisdom. Please check out my blog at whogodis.com and sign up for my monthly newsletter. I have also written Handbook for Victorious Christian Living, which gives practical ways to learn to hear the Holy Spirit and get grounded in the foundations of the Christian faith. I would also love to interact with you on social media, and you can sign up for my podcast in the iTunes store. Thank you so much for listening.